welcome to Fresh Minds. I'm going to start this opening without reading a script this time, because by episode 10, I think we know what we're talking about. This podcast is special. I'm joined by Ronen Gafni, who has a TEDx talk on FreshBiz, and who started a company with Simcha Gluck, who's on as well, to promote FreshBiz all over the world. These two gentlemen have also written a book called The New Entrepreneurs. We decided to come together to build a podcast to really talk about how to, let's say, leverage AI and the humanity of humans as we go through this huge change. And as we've discovered over the last, let's say, 9 podcasts, we're coming upon, and I think we're getting better at it, gentlemen, I think we are, coming upon what are those ideas that are not only going to make humans more brilliant, but what are those ideas that are going to leverage what AI is bringing us to actually get back to more humanity. In last week's episode, we were actually talking about a couple things, which was, okay, AI is giving us more time. We're going to call it the balcony time that Ronen talked about last week. And then also, you know, with the, let's say, effectiveness and efficiency of business, could you actually measure how humans are becoming better leveraging the use of AI? So we're going to start our episode with this title. And I want to actually share with you. Now I'm going to read the title. Gentlemen, you ready? The title that AI gave us was following: Work Smarter Together, the new rules for turning AI time into team breakthroughs. But if you don't like that title, there's another one. The Collaboration Code, how smart teams turn AI into better human work. I like that one too. Or Stop Working Harder, how teams create breakthroughs by pausing together. You kind of get a drift of where we're going today. Or the third one, Beyond Productivity, how AI can make teams more human, creative, and fast. Fourth one, Cracking the Collaboration Nut, how to measure smarter teamwork in the age of AI. And then finally, which is also pretty good, the Smarter Work Playbook, how teams collaborate, create, and win with AI. Ronen, how are you doing?
I'm good, yeah. A lot of action.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's, as everybody knows, this is an international podcast where on parts of the globe, things are pretty safe and parts of the globe, not so safe. But we're going to dig into it. Let's start with what the AI generated. What's kind of interesting is I think through this podcast, I'm learning, we're learning, hopefully our audience is learning on how to leverage AI to build greater humanity, better collaboration, which is kind of interesting that AI as a computer, as an intelligence, is crunching numbers, is actually helping us become more human. It's coming up with a couple company collaborative practices, and we will talk about what the computer's generating, and we're also going to talk about what we as humans know based on our experience. So number one collaborative practice companies can measure, it's called the pause and think practice. So what's the behavior? Teams intentionally stop midstream to ask, and hint for anyone who's playing FreshBiz, this is the killer because it never happens, is we stop and we say, are we working on the right thing? In the right way? With the right people? With the right resources? So let me ask you, gentlemen, tell me more about your observations about, let's say, why people might not stop for the pause and think practice, how it's looked in the past when people have stopped for the pause and think practice, and what you would do to encourage people who are just go to actually stop, think, pause, and then move ahead.
First of all, as you said before, I think that this is something that we are highly recommend through the FreshBiz workshop because it's all about like, did you pause for a second just to ask like a very simple question? What's the goal of the game, or what kind of a game is it? And obviously most people don't, so they just like rush in, as Simcha said, because I got to do my work and it's already 9:05 and I had to be here at 9, so like I already lost 5 minutes. Who has the time to pause? And it's and we talked about this last week a bit, where we said like, what are you doing with all the free time that now that you have now, because AI is doing most of the work. And apparently when I ask people in organizations what they do with all that free time, they always say that they don't have any free time. And that's raising like a really interesting question, because if by using the machine you didn't get any more free time, then I think that the most important question is, who's the machine, right? So, but what I do with this is, and I really mean it as like an AI mode. It's because of AI now, and because we have some more time to pause, because it's not necessarily going to take as long as it took before. Whether I'm building a website or I'm writing an email or whatever, I know in advance that it's not going to take so long. My question is not how I'm going to do it faster, but actually what's possible now that we can rethink what we are doing because of AI. And it happened to me a few times in the past, like 2 months or so. Once when I started developing our new website. So I paused for a second and I said, wait a second. I can really build a new website really quick. I can have AI design it. I can have AI writing like 90% of the content, and then just like Sim will have to go into editing mode and edit it. We can do it pretty fast. Or I can say, how does a website should look like in the age of AI? Because it's not just about like doing the same thing just faster. Maybe something else is possible. And then we came up with the idea that our website can be an adaptive website. So whoever you are, the first question that he asks you is like, who you are. What are you looking for? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you a team leader? Are you an owner of a community? Are you looking to start a business? Like, who are you? Why did you come into our website? And according to what you answer is, the entire website reshapes itself. It's an adaptive website because you can do this now with AI. So old school website that you only read what I pre-prepared for you, no matter who you are, like most websites in the world, when you walk into them, you'll upload them, it will look the same for you and for me, even though we are looking for different things. So I'm not talking about like, Amazon changes the prices if you can afford more. Right. That's not the type of personalization that we are looking for, but actually show me the right information. So that's one thing. And then we had to do a presentation for the invisible economy, a presentation for community owners. So the first question was, okay, so how does a presentation looks like in the age of AI? Should I open my PowerPoint and ask AI to just like come up with good wording and nice images? Or is presentation looking differently? And we came up with an interactive presentation that looks more like a website than a PowerPoint, with sliders that you can change and calculators that you can run. And this is now a live presentation adapting to you and your data, taking you through a journey and not just like taking you through slides. So the first post, this like AI mode, is like, what's possible now? How can we reimagine the industry, the product, the process, whatever, now that AI is possible? Not how to do it faster, how to reimagine it.
What's possible mode is that's my name of choice right now. The what's possible mode. Yeah, because those ideas were remarkable. I do want to ask you though. You mentioned who's the machine. I'm just really curious, Ronen. When you say who's the machine, what does that make you? What does that make you think about when the AI is basically saying, "Hey, got it done. Now go back to work. Hey, got it done. Go back to work. Hey, got it done. Go back to work." I want to know, what is it about human beings that are just struggling with, oh my gosh, I have so much more time to work that I'm actually going to just work, as opposed to stop. What is possible? Where are we stuck as this technology comes in and invades and also benefits us? And who is the machine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, sadly, we are the machine. Because I think we haven't yet stopped as a society to ask what's possible now. Like the conversation about can we now change our way of thinking about what work is all about, so we can change it, so we can work 5 hours a day because of AI now. As a society, can we make a decision that we are now moving towards working less and resting more or enjoying life more? Is that a conversation? Is that a conversation in any board meeting on how can we reduce the hours of work for our employees because of what AI makes us possible? Can we make $100 million just like we made last year, but with fewer hours to invest in? Is that a conversation? I don't think it's a conversation anywhere. I think the only one that can actually afford to have that conversation are the entrepreneurs and the small business owners, because I'm not committed to the same game mechanism that the big companies are committed to. I don't have to constantly grow, endlessly grow my incomes. I can say, okay, awesome, I need $1 million. If I can make it in half the time, awesome, that's all I need for me and my family. So I can afford to at least put that on the table. The big companies are not yet having those conversations. Governments are not having those conversations. Society doesn't have that conversation. It's more like a scarcity mentality about this. It's more about I'm going to get fired. I got to work harder. I got to learn more tools. I got to master more tools. Zero well-being because of what's possible. So that makes you a lower level machine than what you're competing with at the moment. So it's not okay, awesome, I can focus on my humanity at the moment. No, that's not the conversation. And I think we should. That's a nice pause.
It is a nice pause. It's
when you talk about that, I picture the scene in the movie The Matrix, where he goes ahead, and I think this is already probably the second one or the third one, where he brings him down and shows him that what keeps them alive on this lower Earth Zion is all these machines, and they have to tend to all these machines, and it's a whole thing. And he goes, I guess the question is really just who's keeping who alive? If I have to tend to all these machines, because all these machines are tending to keep on me alive, so who's? And it is paradoxical, and it is very true. And there's definitely an element of, if you can't spot the sucker at the poker table, then maybe you are the sucker at the poker table. But that's a whole other reframe and a refresh,
Yeah, it is. It's I think it's a good conversation to really stop from just from a company perspective. What is possible now, given AI, and I do think that most of the companies that we're looking at what's possible now, the answer is fewer humans. We're also finding, though, the works that I read all the time, as the Wall Street Journal, is saying, oh, wait a minute, we might have gone too far on this side, right? We're actually not getting what we thought out of these humans. And what's possible if we start to have the conversation that I hope we're having is to unleash higher human potential, not unleash more human hours, because I think more human hours dehumanizes a human. Yeah. And I think if we are
and I also think that, most of the conversation about the fact that maybe we took it too far, like regarding we don't need so many humans, is because they are mostly concerned about who will be the buyers of all the products if we have less humans making money. That's the conversation.
It's true.
And it's still inside the same circle and same cycle of like we need buyers and employees and manufacturers and buyers and employees and manufacturers, and maybe we are killing too many buyers. That's the question now. It's not about like human well-being or the expression of humanity that we can all enjoy at the moment. I think companies are so afraid even having these conversations. Like it's crazy because you're not just like the machine, you are a slave in the machine.
Yeah.
And that's like that really puts a very, very strong mirror in front of society, asking them, what else do you need, to start asking the real questions? Like, what else? How more advanced should we become? Like, what else do we need to actually be able to stop for a second? And surprisingly, yeah.
Can I just offer this? I just had a really good, I don't know, I guess it was like an educational moment with my kids, because my kids are, as we like to call them, they're digital natives, right? And more, they're becoming AI natives too, to certain things, which, wow, I mean, that's a difficult concept. I try and limit things in my house, obviously. But it was a really good distinction, like, what Ronen was talking about, so Rachel and I, we work in real estate also in Jerusalem. And what's been really nice for us is, I can literally feed Claude, or I could feed it a lease and just say, hey, please regenerate the lease and mention this. And of course it goes through, well, I'm not a lawyer, so anything I do over here, just want to let you know, okay, thank you. But bottom line is, wow, it could just generate a lease with every pertinent bit of information, with all the securities built in, everything written in, that really would have taken days, and it would have taken the legal lease of a whole other language and jargon to be able to put together. And now it spits it out in the span of like 10, 15 minutes. And the point is, this allows more time, therefore, for the human finesse of actually speaking to real live human buyers and sellers and rentals and things like that, because I really don't see an alternative. I don't see how AI is ever going to have the human finesse and the presence of mind of being able to matchmake people with what they're looking for, and the psychology, and there's so much in there. So it was just a great conversation of like, this is a great example of how we're using it so that we can therefore have more human hours of talking to real live people by outsourcing something that would have taken clerks in legal offices and things like that. And so that's one of the gifts, I feel like, is really finding that balance between the human and between, the human finesse that only we have, that's irreplaceable. We've talked about this before. It's the art that we do. It's the self-expression that we do.
Yeah. And it really goes to the theme of the conversation, which is, okay, so what is possible? If Claude is chunking on our leases, and again, Claude's not a lawyer, but it's going to save us about 90% of the time. And I'm doing, 10 hours of leases a week, let's just say. I just got 9 hours back. So what is possible? What would I do with those 9 hours? Which is, which are the measures, which are the metrics, which is where we need to kind of go from the humanity to, okay, let me now have the discipline to make my interactions and my company and my offering even better. We're actually at 23 minutes, which is crazy. I wanted to start to close this out, and I know it takes us a while to close things out. The pause and think practice, which we call the AI mode, which we call the what's possible now mode. How would you measure it? So I've got some suggestions here on how you would measure it. And what I noticed on these measures is the measures themselves basically call on the question, are we being more human? And at the same time, I think it's asking, are we leveraging our humanity for better outcomes? So for instance, a metric. One metric would be the number of structured team pauses per project, right? How many times do we pause per project, right? Because now I think all we measure is how quickly do we get it done? But it'd be interesting if we would measure, how many times we actually stop, which you would have to put into the system to make sure that in any project you're going to leverage those pauses. I would love to have your sense around that, because I know that if I'm playing FreshBiz and I pause, I think I'd have a different outcome. And we've seen that before in playing the game. What are your observations around putting in a metric saying we're going to pause, let's say every Monday, every Tuesday, every 4 hours that we work? How that might make a difference?
I think that we need to be very careful with the matrices, because if you start measuring something, people might start acting according to that measurement without the quality that should come along with it. So if you start measuring how much time are we pausing, so we'll just push pause. We'll do a meeting. Nobody will say anything, or we'll say, okay, let's get back in 2 hours. And everybody will go back and work on his emails, and we'll call it a pause moment. So it really depends what's the quality that you generated during that pause. So I think the metrics needs to be more about quality measurements and not just about the action itself. Right? So for example, let's say that if the pause moment will have to be out in nature, let's say, or outside in the sun, okay? So I don't care what you do there. If you actually spend 2 hours outside in the sun, that's already a win. Okay, so awesome. So each one can be whatever. Just do it outside, you already won, hey? If you'll have to do, let's say, I don't know, once a month we are doing a campfire, hey, and we're getting together around the fire. That's a win, right? I don't care even what you talked about, right? If you measure how much healthier food did you buy because of you had the time to go and bring a farmer in and sell some better quality food, awesome. If you're measuring half-baked ideas that the team came up with on this pause moment, all kinds of crazy ideas that you can do with vibe coding or whatever, and you present half-baked ideas at the end of the month to all the people, this is what we did with our free time, awesome, that's already a win. So I would suggest that. I know from my experience with what we are doing in the digital villages, for example. So I know, how much time we spend in all kinds of small gatherings. I know how much time we spend around our digital fire camp, just talking about stuff. Now, I don't really care what we talked about. I just know that 10 people spent a few hours there. That's already a quality, because they got to get to know each other better. They probably paused doing other stuff. They probably took some time to make new friends. So that's already a win. I know how many half-baked ideas I have that I shared with other people. I know that those are seeds that will turn into something exciting for people. I know, for example, how many pods we are started, and pods in our community are small groups of people that are kind of creating a lab, learning something new. And all they have to do is just put something out there for the community, just sharing their ideas or thought process or the research or whatever. So I already know that this is quality. So I think we need to be very careful with the metrics. What are we measuring? And to make sure that we are measuring the quality that we are looking for.
Yeah, so things that you mentioned is number of meetings outside, what actions we've taken as a result. The next measure I was going to share, which is really tied into it. Okay, so how many decisions did we actually make after we pause? How many changes did we make after we pause? Those are other things to look at. Time that we actually got together. Those are really, really, really good. Simcha, do you want to throw in any ideas in this one?
No, I think that a lot's already been said about this. I would just say exactly, which is, I remember hearing the term for the first time, something called vanity metrics, where it's just like, it doesn't really tell you anything, but it certainly sounds cool. So it's, right. So pausing for the sake of pausing just becomes another thing. And I for sure don't think that any more corporate culture needs to be about creating an empty religion, just to do something, right? So with that said, it really comes down to the intentionality behind it. And I like, Mitch, what you said. You had talked about how in a FreshBiz workshop, when people are going through what they're going through, and we let them start playing how they just automatically play, and then we shift and we pause. We're not just pausing for the sake of, okay, freeze. But we're offering new insights in the space of the pause. We're offering new ways for them to think differently, change something, look at something, be aware of something, and that's really what makes the moves. So I like that a lot. In other words, if you had like a once a week pause day where it was just go out to the park or go talk to 3 different people that you usually don't even talk to, just to discuss how things are going, at work or what could be and things like that, then I think that you could just celebrate the win that in and of itself is, without having to look for like specific things that take place, like almost like a checklist. Because I feel like, if something just becomes a checklist, now we're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And I don't think we need to create more doing for the sake of doing, but I think that we could celebrate the win of the pause, whether it's being outdoors, go speak to 3 people you haven't talked to so far, go get a sandwich with someone new. Like there's so many ways that you could do it, to be able to actually just, it's okay in today's world to not be able to track specific metrics about certain things. That's also okay. In other words, I can't go to an artist and tell him to, tell me exactly how many, artistic moments of euphoria he's had. He's in a flow and he's creating, and the work stands for itself. So I think that that's also really important, is like AI would like us to be able to quantify and measure and calibrate everything, but it's okay if we don't. That's part of the human experience too.
Yeah. I'd like to end on this one. I think I've decided for all 3 of us, we should call this "What's Possible Now" time. So we're reinstating. We've put it in. We're going to get it trademarked. So the pause and think process is now called the "What's Possible Now" time, because I do think that if we stopped for the "What's Possible Now" time, and actually, Simcha, if we said every time we stop and we have conversations and we end it with, okay, so now that we've had this conversation, what's possible now? You actually would, you would actually be answering the question only humans can answer, right?
Beautiful.
That's because AI can't do that. What is possible for humans now that we've actually had this conversation about what's possible for us now? And we come up with incredible solutions. That's why, everybody, they're bringing people back. They let people go, but the thing is, though, is that they need to create a culture which creates time for what's possible now. And then also, what I'm finding with my clients is they need some instructions on how to play the game what's possible now, because they just don't know how to play that game really well. And that's what I think we can bring to the world.
Nice.
Definitely. I think that, what's possible now is exactly what happens to you when you play FreshBiz.
Yeah.
It's if you are in this like entrepreneurial mindset, so every move is a move that the first question you ask yourself is like, what's possible now? With my action cards, with what's on the table, with the business opportunities, with my partners around the table, what's possible now? I think that's what actually a trained FreshBizer is actually doing.
Simcha,
Yeah.
Ronen, thank you so much. Love this time together.
Thank you.
To our listeners, please share this insight, knowledge, experience with your colleagues and friends and family. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of Fresh Minds.